So we talked about punishers, your primary defensive tool. When your opponent makes a mistake, how you capitalize damage from it. We talked about Lili's two stances, one of which is a good result for offense. The other one is very utility in its origin. So let's just take a look at the general play style of the character, what she does well versus what she doesn't, and the kind of things you use in various situations. So I kind of want to go over it in like sections, compartments, so to speak. Different categories of moves. Here's what you do from here. Here's what you have available there, etc., etc. So for the most part, Lili up close is not the strongest character, but the fact that she has one of the best sidesteps in the game can also turn this to her advantage. If you're up close and jab and sidestep, that stuff works really well. Because up close she loses, her best moves are not fast, she doesn't have good counter hits like a Magic 4 or anything. Up close, a lot of characters would just destroy her because they would get the advantage before she did, right? They would get something to their favor. Lili has to either catch a miracle up close or be out here to get something like that. But her sidestep is what comes in handy. So when you're up close, you got to think about all your poking in terms of just sidestepping. Do this and backdash. Do this, sidestep, whatever it might be. So up close, you do have some quick little low pokes that can work, and you have a couple of pressure tactics, but that's not your strength. For the most part, if you're not in a good situation for a mix-up, you want to get out and you want to stay mobile. Stay out here and stay moving so you have more options, rather than getting pinned up in jab range where your jab type moves are not very good. So when it comes to movement, remember, the sidestep is one of the best in the game. She's going to be able to sidestep things that other characters can't, and she can move circles around opponents that get too greedy. Movement is very important. In that regard, there is a link in the description to another video about just movement, and there's a section in there on roll dash and how to do the fake roll dash. So also having that at your disposal when it comes to moving in and out on people is very useful. So you might want to check that out to make sure you understand exactly what roll dash can do and how to do fake roll dash, to really keep your offense fresh and have all your tools at disposal and be able to move in at a heartbeat. So check that out if you need to, and then come back here. So first off, I want to just talk about standing neutral attacks. What do you have and what do they do? What we really see is a lot of these are actually very good moves. They're just either slow or short, which is why she doesn't do so well in the up-close neutral game. She has a 1-2-3 string and a 1-2-4. This is actually kind of cool, it's just not great. This low is annoying, and this mid is safe. So if someone anticipates the low and blocks, obviously they get hit by the mid. There's a mix-up and everything, and if they decide to sidestep this mid, you're in trouble. So this isn't a great tool to use all the time, it's just enough to be annoying. Every so often when you're doing the dance or whatever and you catch like a punish, you go for that low, just to keep it spicy so they don't realize it. What also is interesting is you can cut out the first hit, the one jab, and just do 2-3. So if they're used to this 1-2, 1-2, and then 1-2 low all of a sudden, if you start hitting them with that, it really changes their mental timing. They were not ready for that. They were keying in on 2 punches before the low comes out, right? So that can actually work pretty well. Not to mention the fact that that's a natural combo. They can't even block that one. The counterpart here, though, however, 2-4 is no longer a mix-up because this is now a high instead of a mid, and they can duck to beat both. If they do recognize that 2 jab, they can fuzzy low parry that and duck the high afterwards. So be careful with all of this. It's not great, but it's enough to just be annoying. Once in a while, you throw out that low. You know, you do the quick low, and then you switch to the mid, stuff like that. It's there, but it's just a very basic entry-level sort of annoying tool, right? Not a great strategy. Next up is the 4 kick. It's not a Magic 4, there's no counter hit property, but it's actually a pretty good attack. It's 12 frames, and it's +7 on hit, which is totally decent. This is a fairly good poke overall. It's just not one of the best, you know? A lot of other characters can beat this out. Their version of it is much better. This is the beginning of her 10 string. It does that, but I wouldn't honestly ever press anything beyond that. 4-1 is still a natural combo. It does a little bit more damage, but it's like 0 on hit, maybe even +1 at best. I would rather just pop them with this and take my +7 frames and go from there, right? Do this and continue my offense, rather than this little extra 5 damage and, you know, risk getting counter hit on my own turn, you know? Next up is down forward 1 at 13 frames. This is now in the same category of other characters, down forward 1s. They've adjusted its hitbox so it hits low profiling characters. It reaches from much further away than it ever did. This is now actually a legitimate down forward 1, maybe even in the top half. It's definitely not the worst down forward one in the game like it used to be. This works to keep opponents from backdashing, keeps them from tracking to your left and stuff like that. This move does what it was always intended to do, to be a mid-check in your kind of poking offense. Also, the fact that it's -1 on block is actually pretty good. Being -1 is decent because you still have the full arsenal of sidestep and backdashing. Compared to characters like Kazumi, whose down forward 1 was really good, that's actually -4, I think now. Because it was so good and so oppressive, they had to make Kazumi -4 so she couldn't just keep doing it. So -1 is actually kind of a blessing. Now that this down forward 1 is really good and has the range, also being -1 on block to let you bail out of there, it's excellent. So down forward 1 is immediately one of her better moves now because it's something she always needed and now she has. After that, at 14 frames, is now forward 1+2. This is a pretty interesting move. It's very, very short, has no tracking, which, as we mentioned, is one of the weak parts when you're up close, right? It's safe on block, though. It's a mid that's safe on block, and when it hits, it causes that little bend over state. It makes them +4 and forces crouch. This is a very interesting situation, which we'll talk about later in depth, what you get when you have that particular advantage and what you can do from it. So on hit, that's actually very good. On block, it's totally safe, and on counter hit, when you get up, you can pop them like that. Even if they don't move, you can do that for guaranteed damage as well. So forward 1+2 is actually really good. Counter hit follow-ups, pressure situation, really good pressure situation on hit, and safe on block. It's very stubby and it doesn't track. That's the only problem with it, and that's a lot of these moves. Same with the next move, up back 1. At 15 frames, very short range, doesn't track at all. But now this move has kind of its own little utility that it never had before. There's no more counter hit property, but on any hit, it does this. So you get a guaranteed down 3, and if they move, you pop them for anything you want to. They do anything trying to get up, and they get bopped. So up back 1 is actually kind of cool now. It's also safe on block, -9, so it's barely safe, but you get the knockdown on hit, you get free damage, you get pressure or whatever. Again, no tracking and no range. So it's a great move, but you have to be right up here, and as soon as you know what I mean, like your opportunity to use that move can go away very quickly. If they backdash once, all of a sudden you're out of the range of all this stuff. So you have to have like the right situation to do moves like this and set them up. They're not great in neutral when your opponent is also mobile. They're too short. Forward 3+4 is another move that has pretty good range, but also doesn't track super well. I just like it overall because it's another safe mid. -4 on block is pretty good for a move like this. It jumps over lows entirely. She's airborne for big parts of this. Knocks down. Really good overall. It does have extensions. You can press 3 and then 4 to change it like that, but if you do that, all of a sudden the last hit becomes like -20 something on block, and all you've gained is a little bit of damage. What does that do? 32 versus 23. 9 damage. Yeah, that's a nice bit of damage, but if they happen to have blocked this, they're going to blow you up for that bad, so I don't think it's ever worth it. This by itself, being a safe mid, the knockdown right at their feet, you got pressure right away on them, I think that's really good. And the other two moves in basic standing neutral to go over are back 2-1 and back 1. Back 2-1 has an extension. Both punches can follow up with that third hit, but it's really worth noting this move can hold forward to go into do glide or hold backwards to go into back turned. And back 1 is a similar situation. You can press 4, it has a natural combo extension, or you can press forward to go into do glide. And we'll talk about both of these moves more extensively in the mix-up offense section, but these are just the kind of last two to round out your basic standing arsenal of moves. And if you look at it on paper, they seem like they're really good. This 4 is decent for not being magic. Her down forward 1 is good. This mid is excellent. The counter hit properties, the forced crouch. This mid is cool. This mid beats lows and still safe. This is cool. Their only problem is they don't track at all. They have 0 tracking up close, which a lot of people can blow up, and the rest of them have no range, so a simple backdash gets you out of a lot of these. So the coolest moves that she has are actually really cool. They just have some weaknesses, which are why she's not that good up close. If these moves had a little bit of tracking or better range, she'd be a monster up close. And that's not the way she's designed. Lili's a little bit more flexible out here. She can do much more nasty stuff to you, get in, hit you once, and then get back out and start sidestepping. That's what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. She's not supposed to stay in and wave dash in your face like Mike Tyson, you know? So that's why she has those kind of weaknesses built in. Her up close moves are cool, they're just not super strong. There's ways to beat them. So next up, let's look at moves that are from crouch. If you end up in crouching or you quickly duck a high or whatever, she has a basic duck jab that you have to do by down back one. She has a different move under down one, so you have to do down back one to duck jab. And it's a duck jab, it's not good, it's a duck jab. They beat everything in the game, right? You can do anything you want and then just duck jab. So it has that function, it's just, what are you going to say about a duck jab? It's what they do. Otherwise from crouch, you got a while standing 4, which at the normal 11 frames is exceptional because it knocks the opponent down and stays safe on block. This is a fantastic while standing 4 to have. To just be in their face and be able to do that and knock them down is tremendous. Otherwise, you do have while standing 1-2, which can do a little bit more damage. The drawback to this is if that happened to get blocked, if you're using this as a neutral tool, right? If you're just doing this like on approach, a lot of people are going to duck that. They're ready to see that because they're used to this one as well. That's going to get ducked, and that was going to get ducked, so people are ready for that stuff. The advantage here now is while standing 1, 2, 4. If that third hit lands as a counter hit now, you get a combo from it. So that's only there to discourage people from getting greedy. If they just duck this and then pop you back real quick, there's nothing they can do. But if they duck this and try to do like big delayed hop kick or something like that, they can get counter hit by the third hit and you kind of steal your turn back. So that's the only reason that exists. Otherwise, this is a little bit risky to use on offense. It's better off to just use as your 13 frame punish. As a 13 frame while standing punish, the damage is nice. You get +8 to continue your offense. That's really good. That's enough. I wouldn't use it too much more beyond that, but it does kind of have some uses to it. Even just like the basic while standing 1 and approach, you can do that. Just be super careful of that getting ducked. Other moves from crouch, she has full crouch down forward 1. This is another safe mid that knocks your opponent down. This is at 14 frames and does a nice bit of damage. This is a cool move all around. The interesting thing is, on counter hit now, you get a free follow-up. This has a new counter hit property that causes that bounce state on knockdown, and you get an extra follow-up. You got 50 damage from that little counter hit from a mid that was safe. A 14 frame mid that was safe can lead you to 50 damage. That is really good. But again, not superb range on this move. It does what it needs to do. It's actually kind of cool. It'll hit the opponent when they're on the ground as soon as they start moving. So in like Oki situations, you can kind of keep the pressure on with that as well. And if it does counter hit like a get up kick, then hooray for you, 50 damage. Its counterpart is full crouch down forward 3, which is a low. This also in the last patch got some attention, and the fact that it now crushes highs pretty well. This used to stay standing for like 20 frames, and now this gets crouch status in like 9. So things like back 1 into this move, that used to lose to jabs every time. If they just jab, they beat you out of this. Now it does not. Now this will beat jabs. It goes right under there just in time. So this having some crouch tech properties is actually pretty nice. In addition to its counter hit, is also a launcher. So full crouch down forward 1, safe mid knockdown, counter hit follow up. Full crouch down forward 3, low slide with some good crush properties, counter hit launcher. Just very bad on block and kind of bad on normal hit either. This is kind of an all or nothing thing. If you think you're going to get everything with that one key low, this is your low. That's your other utility from sidestep. Otherwise, the last tool out of sidestep out of crouch, excuse me. Your last tool out of crouch is sidestepping. Keep in mind that if you end up in a crouch, you can always sidestep up, which is also a very powerful tool for this character. If you just do something that leaves you crouch, sidestepping is still game, which is excellent. Anything you can do with this character that lets you sidestep afterward is really good. Keep that in mind. So those are your crouching tools, your from crouch tools. While standing 4 is excellent. And then your 2 full crouches, the mid versus the low, both have some pretty cool options built in there. Next up, let's tackle actual low attacks. Start with the generic down 4. Not a great move. 12 frames, -2 on hit. It's just a quick, like, stuff the move. Not a very good one. Down 3 is slower. This is 19 frames, but it has an absolutely silly amount of range. Try to get it just right. Right about there. That's a lot of range. That's downtown. She's hitting you with that low. The only problem is she's fully standing and she's vulnerable the whole time, so a faster, like, Magic 4 can just stuff her approach cleanly. But at 19 frames, it's a little slow, but it's not that bad. Superior range on this low, and it's +1 on hit. So having the +1 on hit lets you jab for free or whatever it might be. Your down forward 1 beats theirs, etc. So down 3 is pretty good. This used to be pretty much the only low she had that can deal with this. Nothing else was plus. Now, in the current state, we have down 1, 2. Down 1-2 is now a natural combo, which is just a huge benefit, considering the startup is 18 frames and ducks. So 19 frame with range, but she's still standing. This is 1 frame faster and it ducks highs, which is very good. So the full string by itself is +3 on hit. So since this is always going to hit as a combo, consider this a 1 frame faster version of this that's better on block, or better on hit, right? This is superior in almost every way. It's faster and it gives you much better advantage on hit. The only drawback is if they did happen to be ducking, they would block the first one and duck the second one completely. You could get blown up for doing this, but it's really meant to just be like kind of a hit and move, pop them and get out of their tool. Maybe a jab and then one of these. Don't rely on this too much because it is a low high, but if you're doing your thing right, if you're playing the game and you're staying mobile and you're hitting and you're getting out of there, they're never going to anticipate you doing that, so they're never going to be able to duck it correctly. Down 1-2 is now really good because of its frame advantage on hit. In addition to that, down 1 by itself is also much, much better now, because you can still do the first hit at 18 frames. You can hold down and stay in a crouch state if you like, and at this point you are 0 on hit. You're completely neutral, which is good enough because now the opponent is expecting this. They're expecting you to do this every time. If you just stop from there and do that, you know, stuff like that can really mess them up. Stop here and then hit them low again, then that, you know? That really messes with their timing. Once they get accustomed to this soon enough, just doing the first hit and then changing it up will really mess with people's timing. So down 1 at 0 in the remaining crouch is pretty interesting. It takes a little bit of maturing, right? You really need people to start getting used to this. Once they're used to that as the norm, then eventually you can just do 1 and then change it up from there. But it is there. The potential, I think, for that little trick is very, very high, because people are not going to be expecting you to do something different than this for the most part. The next one to mention is her back turn version of down 4. This is far superior than the front version. The front version is 12 frames -2 on hit. Well, this one is 10 frames because it's back turns, so it's essentially the same kind of thing, right? Most back turn characters have faster attacks from the state, so the speed is about the same. They both high crush. However, this guy, this is +3 on hit compared to -2. +3 on hit is excellent. That's an excellent situation to have from this quick little low poke. You can do whatever you want from there. Go for the counter hit, you know, go for frame traps, etc. Back turn down 4 is very, very good. The more often you can do this and just kind of, you know, turn backwards out in the middle of movement and catch that one instead of the front one, really good opportunity. And the last major low to discuss is the Root of Evil. Forward, forward, 4. This is a little on the slower side, period. At 22 frames, people can see this and block it on reaction a lot of times, but not every time. It's a little bit risky, but what you get is actually pretty cool. On normal hit, you get plenty of frame advantage. Not to mention, you can turn backwards. If you hold backwards while this move is going on, Lili stays in back turned, which is a really, really good opportunity here. At +4 back turns, you have a lot of things that are straight up unstoppable. They can't beat that. They can't beat hop kick, etc. You have tons of buttons that will beat them if they try to do anything against that on hit. The cool thing is on counter hit, that 1-4 follow-up is guaranteed. If you hold back turn on counter hit and then press 1-4, that's free. That counter hit state was +9. The follow-up is guaranteed for 50 damage and a potential wall splat. So that right away, I think, makes this worth it, especially waking up an opponent at the wall, right? They're getting up and they stand up into one of these things and get countered. Oh, Lord. It starts to hurt real bad. So Root of Evil is annoying because people that get hit by it are like, damn, I should have blocked it. And that kind of gets them off their edge a little bit, which is kind of the fun part. Counter hit rewards are huge, but even normal hit into back turn options are really, really good. So that covers your basic standing moves, what you do while you're just on your feet poking at them, what you got from crouching, a little bit of a different arsenal there, some cool options, and your low attacks. Your basic high, mid, low paradigm, how you poke them, use this mid, use this low, right? Keep their block guessing. So what happens in a three-dimensional game against characters that can move sideways? You need homing moves. You need moves that stop tracking. Because your sidestep is so powerful, this can actually come in handy offensively as well. When you sidestep them and use your own homing moves, keeps them pinned down. They won't be able to counterstep you or anything like that. They're not going to be able to outstep, you know, your offense if you keep them pinned with your homing moves. And in this case, Lili's homing moves are really good. Quarter circle forward 2-1. Do glide 2-1 starts it off. At the fastest possible way you could do it, this is 16 frames. Because the down, down, forward input, that takes frames, obviously. 16 is the fastest this move come out. So you can actually do it at, you know, 20 frames or whatever if you do it really slow. But if you do this quickly, that's a very fast homing move. 16 frames, and the fact that it's hit confirmable means it's mostly going to be safe. On block, you don't really need to ever let it loose with this. You have plenty of time to confirm the hit and let it go. You can delay it a little bit too long, but you should have enough time to see it pop and then knock them down. So fundamentally safe on block, 16 frame homing move with knockdown. That's really good. Otherwise, you could do glide 3+4. This one is totally safe on block, and in fact, it is +6 in your favor on block. So that is absolutely fantastic. It crushes highs a little bit, but not as much as you would like. And at the end, it can kind of jump over some lows, but these aren't like the huge merits. The merits are the fact that this move can be done as fast as 14 frames. If you can just pop it out, you got a 14 frame homing move that's +6 on block, but it's a high. Anything they did, if they just did a down four or a duck jab or whatever in the middle of your offense, that could miss entirely. So that's its only drawback. But between the two of them, quarter circle 2-1 being a hit confirmable mid, and quarter circle 3+4 being a frame trap high, you're covered. Your homing moves are really, really covered. Those are excellent, excellent overall tools. Your basic homing move in forward 3 kind of sucks. This move is basically garbage outside of like 2 situations. One of those situations is like as a pressure trap we're going to talk about later. When you have them in this kind of situation, forward 3 is kind of decent. And at the wall. An opponent standing up at the wall, this is pretty good because they can't outspace this move. Otherwise, this move gets outspaced constantly. It's too short. It's a basic one-button homing move, so if that's what you're comfortable with, you can kind of do it. But it's 20 frames and it's got no range. The last patch made this better on block. If they block this now, it's only -3, which lets Lili sidestep. And as we talked about, is such a good thing. But that's kind of like an admission of failure, right? My only goal in doing this move is to get it blocked so I can sidestep out of there quicker. He's probably got something better you could do right there. So the quarter circle moves, I think, are superior homing moves. Forward 3 is there just to kind of, you know, be simpler option. If you don't want to do quarter circles in time, or you're just simply not good at it, forward 3 is there to cover the gap. It's just not great. Forward 1+2 is an interesting animal. Its frame data on the box will say 18 frames, but it's much longer than that. You can see how she takes this little half step before the move comes out. It's the computer doesn't like measure that timing. This move is actually probably closer to 25, maybe 30 frames because of that wind up. It's really weird. I don't know how to fit this into my moveset, to be honest. I'm just mentioning it because it is a homing move. It's safe on block, and it knocks you down. And you can charge it up, and it turns unblockable, but by itself, I don't know how to use this. It doesn't seem like it's outclassed by other homing moves. It doesn't seem like it has its own job. Kind of tough to describe that one, to be honest, but it's there. The last 2 homing moves are down back 3 and down back 4. These are garbage. Don't do them. They're homing, but they're not worth the risk. You have plenty of other options. Your quarter circles are the king and queen, so to speak, of your homing moves. Just leave it at that. So that's side-to-side coverage. That's how you keep your opponent from out-sidestepping you, because sidestepping is one of your strengths. You'd be better off to keep them from stepping so you can move circles around them. So let's talk about forward and backwards. Let's talk about when you're at long range, since we've determined being close range is not a strength of the character. If you're out here, what changes? What makes Lili so much better than when she was up close? And the answer is just a couple of other moves that are on the table now that have such a good utility, they're absolutely worth building a character around. In addition to that, just the overall flexibility of being out here and being able to sidestep more cleanly, or backdash, or do glide to get in if you want, for example. So out here at range 2, your quarter circle 2-1, your homing moves, and your quarter circle 3+4, these are excellent tools, even out here at range 2. They have good range, because even if you do them at their instantaneous speed, they still have a quarter circle. You know, they still have a do glide in them. So that actually still works from like range 2 and then some. Quarter circle moves are still very good. They're your go-to homing moves left and right, and they're really good moves out at range as well. On top of that, you also want to consider quarter circle 1-2. As we talked about this in the do glide section, this move is mostly downs and just a few ups, but it's there, right? If an opponent is out here, you can kind of find a spot to stick that in every so often. It's a natural combo, and you could play the cancel game counter hit stuff if you want to, but oh, you're putting a lot of risk out there just to kind of maybe catch them once in a while with that. I think you're better off to stick to 2-1, but quarter circle 1-2 is on the table because it also has a fantastic range that if they're out here thinking they're safe or they're about to make a move on you, that can catch them real quick. So it is worth noting for that one extra positive is its fast range. Also out here you have 3. 3 is an interesting little number because of its range being so good. It has extensions. You have this 3-2-3, just going to get you in trouble because they'll duck that. 3-2 and do glide is not great, but it's there. 3-1 is a wall bouncing attack. It's a mid this time that's unsafe on block, but again, everything has its place. You know, they start ducking this, you do the mid, and it gets hit by that. But 3 by itself leaves Lili automatically back turned. What's interesting is this move on block into back turned is -11, which is bad news. Even out at range, if they happen to block it, you're maybe okay if you can turn around quickly and get out of there, or maybe duck and do that. You can escape that, but on hit, this isn't too bad. If this move hits them, Lili's like -2, -3 at back turned. And that doesn't sound great either, but it is good enough. Considering this string is 8 frames, if Lili hits you at the very tip of this, that'll still work. She might have a bit of the advantage there. So keep in mind you're negative, but you're not that negative that you have to just completely give up your turn. If you catch them at the tip with this, if they're running at you, and you stuff them with one of these things, you do have some options out of back turned. And if not, you can always just retreat and get out of there. So 3 does add some spice to the mixture because now they can get stuffed at this range. And if they just get caught by this, all of a sudden, okay, back turn, shit, what do I do? Too late, you know? A quick little decision they have to make. Okay, all of a sudden back to, ooh, easy computer. A quick little poke into back turn, what comes next, right? That can be a little jarring sometimes. And then again, if they, if they're not super paying attention, you can go for do glide mix-ups or whatever. So the whole kit combined, 3 into back turned, 3-1 wall bounce, and 3-2 into do glide. That combined is on the table now at this range and has some interesting uses. It's not the best yet, but it does show you what the character is also capable of when you keep things fresh and your opponent is not able to predict what you do. The real crown jewel out here, though, has always been forward 4. This move has just fantastic range, safe on block mid, and knocks down. But now as of the current patch, you get a whole combo off of this move. So a counter hit launcher off of this safe knockdown mid with superior range. That lets Lili dominate this distance. Out here, this is Lili Town. If you come anywhere in it, you're catching one of these to the teeth. And if you happen to be doing something at that same point in time, I'm going to knock out the rest of your teeth. That counter hit combo is just nasty. You get tons and tons of rewards from this move now. The only problem is it doesn't track. If they kind of run up to you and then like sidestep or whatever, this can miss. It has no tracking. So I feel like this is a bit more keep out than it is offense. You don't want to like come at them and then throw this out. Because if they feel like you're approaching, right, what are they doing? They're backdashing, they're sidestep, they're doing this. So that will miss if that's the case. This is better for them coming at you in a straight line because of its lack of tracking. And I think that's good. That's all it needs to be. You can get up close and then use this, but if they happen to sidestep, you're in trouble. But if not, it's okay, right? It's not like they can sidestep it on reaction. The risk just exists if they were moving laterally, you could get blown up. But that's not why you pick this character. You don't live your life thinking about what might be when you pick this character. You do cool stuff and you dance and float and step around and you do wildly different and interesting things that your opponent cannot predict. That's why you pick this character. And this is a huge component of the toolbox now. 17 frames isn't the fastest, but it is her fastest counter hit application. So this is a huge bonus to have now that she didn't have before. Forward 4 at this range 2 is ultra deadly. Forward 3+4 is this missile kick, which has always been kind of cool. It's not fast. It's not slow necessarily either. At 19 frames, it's only a teeny bit slower than this, but it jumps over lows. She's completely airborne. It's safe on block. It feels like it's plus sometimes, that huge amount of hits, but it's not. It's just good enough to kind of occasionally throw out there and make them think about, is that move plus? It feels like I'm in a huge amount of stun. Maybe it's not. Forward 3+4 is kind of interesting. It's not like exceptional in any way, but it's just there to keep doing something different. You don't want to do this every time. You have this to just throw out once in a while to keep it fresh. And the last thing at this range that really fits the bill more than anything else is Lili's hop kick. Lili's hop kick is actually really good out here as soon as they come at you. As soon as they come at you, you can interrupt with this hop kick because it's got some evasion frames and it's likely to stuff whatever they do. Not to mention if you're out here and you have a much better potential for whiffs. If you're out here and you backdash and you sidestep, you should be able to avoid their attacks much more easily. Up close, there's a lot of stuff that'll catch you, right? Stray elbows and knees will catch you up close. But out here, your sidestep is going to be much more effective. So you just kind of do your little thing. You're dancing around out here. These whiff punishes with hop kick are very, very good at this range. Any one tiny little thing comes up just short, you tag them with this. And even if it doesn't, even if they're coming at you at like this distance, this hop kick is good at stuffing them because it's got some evasion built into it. Seems like she just kind of goes under stuff. It's not Claudio by any means, but it's an above average hop kick with good range and a good hitbox. So out at further ranges, like Kazumi's hop kick is like here, right? Lili's is good here still for the same purpose and more. So it's definitely worth mentioning in long range toolkits. This is a semi-long range tool for the most part. So those are your new options when you're out at range. It doesn't sound like much, but they're really good. Having your quarter circle moves back you up is excellent. Forward 4 owns this territory now. This is Lili Town, you stay out of it. And then like the kick missile is kind of interesting, hop kick punish and all that stuff. If you want to get back in, if you're out here and you want to get back in against the passive opponent and keep attacking them, it's kind of a similar combination of stuff we've already talked about, led by your quarter circle moves. Quarter circle 2-1 and quarter circle 3+4, they're excellent at this. You want to get in, you do this. And if it gets blocked, you just do nothing, right? Or you can do this, and if it gets blocked, they're at +6 and you continue your offense. So right away, you have this to cover the ground. Now you're +6 and you can run offense from there just like that. In a heartbeat, it's your turn. You got right back in on them so fast. So these are also the moves that kind of lead the way when it comes to being at range. Not only to stay out here at range and play keep away, but to get back in. These moves are really good at doing that. Quarter circle 3+4 and 2-1 with its hit confirm are excellent. Down forward 3+4 is now something to consider to get back in. This is an interesting little number. It's got the good range, right? She can hit you from way downtown with this thing. It's a natural launcher. She gets a combo from that. And it's not safe on block. The fastest you could turn around is still -10. This is -4 on block, and it takes you 6 frames to turn around. So even if you do it at your fastest, you can still get jab punished in the back, which is dangerous for a lot of characters. But it's not the end of the world, right? They have to be ready to do it immediately. And sometimes they don't want to do that. Sometimes people want to duck jab because they're scared of what you might do on block, not realizing they actually do have a clean punish here. They might want to duck jab or hop kick you. So when you do this move, you can actually, you know, use it against them and do your hop kick or do your down 4 poke and stuff like that. So you can turn what should be a punish situation into a quick little mix-up for you if they're not keen on it. If you do this and somebody immediately 1-1-2s you in the back, you should start being careful from now on, you know what I mean? That's a person that knows this -10 is going to get confirmed. There's nothing you can do about it. Fastest you can block is technically 11, so if they know that, stay away. Otherwise, this is a really good approach tool. This is cool because if they don't do anything against you, you got this down poke into your offense. If they got hit by it, it's a combo. You've got jabs, you've got all kinds of stuff from your back turn. So it's technically a really good back turn setup if it weren't for the fact that it's -10 when it starts. So an opponent doesn't know that, it actually is a really good back turn setup. And like I said, if it got hit, combo time. And the last tool for getting back in is also a crown jewel now, because forward 3 is a natural launcher. This move used to just lead into do glide situations and stuff like that. Now it's a launcher on hit. You can still do glide stuff, but forward 3 has a ton of options now, because this also has downtown range. This is range 3 and then some. No tracking, 0 tracking. So if you got, again, a passive opponent that's out here just, you know, sidestepping and dancing, you're going to have a hard time catching them with this. But if you got an opponent right where you want them and you're ready to get back in, this can jump right on them quickly. By itself, you still get a combo from it, but it's -12 on block. So since we were already doing this in the first place, every time this gets blocked, you just go into do glide and then, you know, cancel out of what's a sidestep or whatever. You can still do that here, even on hit. You can see that the move hits and then still catch them for your combo in that case. It still works. You can just sidestep immediately like you're going to. You're holding forward to do glide regardless, no matter what. You're holding forward to do glide. If you see it hit, you can tap up immediately and go for your combo like I'm doing here. It's a little hard. To be honest, it's a little tricky. There's one. Right? You can always do that. And if it gets blocked, you just sidestep anyway, right? You can do whatever you want there. So forward 3 can still be made safe thanks to your do glide cancels. And being a natural launcher, whew, that's a lot of potential now. To come back in flying with this frame trap into whatever offense, or come back in with this potential launcher now, really, really good stuff. So that's pretty much all you need if you want to get back in. There's no point in doing anything else. This is more keep out. This is more get in. Quarter circle 2-1 and quarter circle 3-4, they do both, right? I mean, this has enough pushback. You can still keep people away from you. You could use this to get in because you're still in range. Even with the pushback, you're still in range of running your offense. Just be careful. That little bit of pushback, stuff like this, your stubby moves we talked about, don't always reach. So be warned there. Getting back in is good, right? To mix them up and run pressure or whatever. But keep in mind, when you do get in, you've entered your weak territory where moves like this and moves like this are prone to missing. Always keep that in mind. So that's the basic neutral toolkit. Your standing arsenal of pokes, your non-magical 4, your really interesting array of safe mids with cool properties that just have no tracking. And they have no range, whatever it might be. Those are excellent moves, but they tell you being up close is a situational thing. You do this move once and you get out. You cannot abuse this. You're using borrowed money when you're up close. You might have one of these get you something cool, but that's all you got. Get out of there and do something else. Your crouching moves into your while standing state, these are really good. This while standing 4, whew, it's indescribable how good this while standing 4 is, right? Compared to like a character that doesn't have a good rangy one, or you know what I mean, ones that have crappy hitboxes, this is a great while standing 4. Also on a full crouch has this counterpart, this little mid with its counter hit knockdown, and this low with a counter hit launch. Those can come in really handy if you have an opponent that's, you know, prone to making bad decisions. Your crouch game is actually kind of decent now. Thanks to the current patch, this is low crushing high crushing properties, and this is counter hit. These two are definitely a legitimate situation now. Your arsenal of lows is also better. Down 3 has excellent range, but not a ton of advantage. Now your down 1-2 has supreme advantage at the cost of no range and no tracking, right? So it's one or the other with this character. You got to familiarize yourself with both situations and what works best. Down 1-2 offensively is super duper good now. Not to mention back turned, your down 4 is really good. If you're just doing it, you're canceling, you're spinning around, your back turn down 4 is excellent. And Root of Evil is good and also bad, right? They can block this and blow you up. But other than that, this is a really good move to just annoy the piss out of them. Every time someone gets hit by that, like, oh, I hate that move, right? You want to do that. You want that as much as you can. You want people saying, man, I hate getting hit by that, and then do it again. Right? Make sure they'll do something about it. And eventually they start to realize, okay, she's going to do this every time she's out at range. You do this instead, right? Hit him with the mid. That's what it's about. So those are all your low attacks. Your homing moves, your do glide 2-1, and your do glide 3+4. They cover all your bases you need for homing. They also cover most of your bases for being outside at range 2 and getting back in to attack your opponent from deeper ranges. Those quarter circle moves cover all of that. In addition to that, if you're out here a little bit, forward 4 comes into play really, really well. Your whiff punishing skills with hop kick can really shine out here as well. Your round off as a launcher can start to work at this range, and forward 3, the ultimate get-in tool. Now this is now the ultimate get-in tool. It's a launcher on hit. It can be safe on block. You get continued pressure sometimes. All that stuff. So that's pretty much everything you have in your standing neutral game. And what I mean by standing neutral is nothing has happened yet, right? You're just looking at each other. You're not getting pressured. You're doing moves and you're moving around. You're sticky. You're floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee, just like you're supposed to. You're not getting up off the ground. We're talking about just plain neutral.